Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Men's Human Rights Discord Saturday live stream. We are the semi-official Discord of the Men's Rights subreddit and also affiliated to the National Coalition for Men in Chicago. Today is going to be the second part of our interview with Hugh Mann, who has found himself in the unfortunate position to be involved with the US jail system. So, Hugh Mann, over to you, sir.
Good morning. Okey-doke. So, um, so my whole thing started. Um, it started when I got into a disagreement with my daughter's mother about how she was parenting. I didn't have any right to criticize her before that, but like we entered into partnership with parenting, and she was doing things that was harming our kid, and it led to me seeking legal parental rights so that I could be able to watch over my daughter. And the mom didn't like that. And then that started a whole bunch of court crap. And she had, anyway, so, and she had been divorced in this very same county and knew the court system and the whole everything better than I did anyway. So I showed up to a frickin' naval battle with a rubber boat and a Nerf gun, um, like thinking that I had rights. Anyhow, um, that's kind of the preface of it. And I was at the place in my case where I was just starting to get the hang of supervised visits, which had been all in public to that point, like dirty libraries, dirty restaurants, dirty parks. And my daughter wasn't even a year old. And I wasn't the type of, I was a real doting dad. I didn't, I treated her like a little goddess, you know, her feet didn't touch dirty ground. Not yet. Um, yeah, I was very attentive. Uh, so it was really hard to be doing the supervised visits in public and being publicly shamed and all that. And we'll have some conversations about that. But the thing is I, even with all that, I was getting good at it because I was very motivated to be with my daughter, and have things return to normal, which I thought I was working towards. So I got better at visits, and here's where it kicks off. I went to a hearing, and I want to say like November or December, and not of that time, and the judge changed my visitation and granted me supervised visits at home, which meant that I could now have the visitation monitor come to my home and see me at home with my child, where there's like, it's clean and safe. Um, so that was a big step forward. And the next step after that is if you do well with that, then they start working you towards unsupervised visitation and increase time until hopefully you get to 50-50 custody or whatever needs to happen. So right after I had been granted the order to have the supervised visits at home, but before I had actually had supervised visits at my home, um, I get this very detailed, death-threatening phone call at like 5:30 p.m. I was actually on my way out the door, and I get this random call of this guy who is telling me how he's gonna hurt me and kill me and dismember me. I mean, that the guy was talking a blue fucking streak. Um, and the thing is I didn't know him, but he knew my name. He asked for me by name. When I answered, he goes, "Is this Mister?" And it said my name, and I'm like, "Well, yeah, that's me." Um, I had been in business as a local candy maker and was known for that, so I was used to getting calls from stranger, and hoped it was a business call. Honestly, um, been separated from my family. I had finally resettled and moved in with an ex workmate who had a room that he could rent and was trying to get readjusted. I had couldn't afford a real kitchen, so I made arrangements with the county to be able to use my home kitchen and try to restart my business. Had paid all my fees. I was trying to put myself back together, even though I was completely devastated by PTSD and didn't know it, and all kinds of crazy stuff that happens. You take away somebody's baby, and it's like taking cold turkeying a junkie. It's anyway, physiological and mentally, actually, because I had an internal clock of all my baby's needs. So, like, my skin would crawl when I knew it was like time to. Uh, sorry, fuck was I? Got it. So, so here's this guy on the phone talking shit a mile a minute, and like, uh, he got away with the first call, but the second time he called, because I might have even hung up on him, just been like, I don't know you, click. But the second time, I was in front of my computer and I hit there was like an app on the Macintosh computers, like, um, where you could like record funny videos with the built-in cam with your kids and then distort them. And what was it? Not, um, I can't remember what the name of the app was. Anyway, I turned it on and recorded myself receiving this call on speakerphone, or a chunk of it. And after he hung up, I called the police. Um, and because I won't lie, where I'm from, we settle our own stuff. Like, I come from Midwestern Appalachian United States, and I don't know, feuds happen, things get nasty, and this guy was getting there, and I'm like, well, I'm not in a place where we settle our own things. They have the cops for that. So, like, uncharacteristically of me, I called the cops and was like, this guy's talking about shooting me through my walls. um, and my he described the house that I had left from my daughter and her mom, and he also described the interior of the place where my son lived. And he knew my name. So it really weirded me out. Like, he knew too much. And when I said, "Hey man, look, you're freaking me out. Maybe we can meet at a Denny's and like work this out." He wasn't having it. And like, he lied about what his name was. It was I was already overwhelmed. This was outside my pay grade. And I had like a, oh god, 15-year-old son at the time, and was just too domesticated to have like a caveman response. Um but even now, like, I'm sure you can hear it in my voice, like, oh, anyway, I'm not gonna talk shit. But man. So, um moving on. Police show up. So this is January, like into January. Police show up. Um, I give them the recording of this guy on a USB stick, and it's obviously him aggressing and me not aggressing. So I give him this, and I'm like, I got this call. They threatened me and my household, and the police are like, okay, cool, we'll take care of it. They didn't do shit for like 6 months. Sorry, they did nothing for 6 months. Meanwhile, I'm still going through supervised visitation at my home, thank goodness. Um, Although I think there was an emergency hearing where my ex tried to get it disrupted because things were obviously not right at my home if I'm getting threatening calls or something. And I still hadn't put it together yet. I thought this was a rando guy. So, fast forward 6 months, and the detectives are like, okay, we're ready to meet you and discuss your case. And I'm like, thank God, I need a restraining order to protect me because I don't know who this guy is. And like, he could be on me right now and I wouldn't know it. He could be on on my son. Like, so anyway, um, detectives show up at my house at like 9:30 on like a Wednesday morning. Like 9:30 in the morning is like a recurring theme. Courts like to start then. That's when cops get started. I don't know. Um, a lot of fucked up things happen to me at like 9:30 in the morning. Anyway, um, okay, I can do this. So detectives show up, and I look out my door, and there's two guys there looking like detectives, cheap suits, and I'm in my socks. I knew they were coming, so I had coffee and tea on, and I'd already started my candy work for the day because I figured it would be a quick talk and then I'd have to get through my day. And open the door, and the first guy says, would you step outside, please? And I'm like, hold on, let me grab my shoes. And he's like, no, you won't need those. Please just step out on the porch. So I did. Um, and he proceeded to turn me around and just cuff me. Didn't say shit. You're under nothing. I thought they were there to help me. And I'm like, look, man, I've got the stove is on. Like, we need to go inside and turn off the stove. I'm still like rational. Or so, fucking idiot. So anyway, um, but I'm sharing this because this happens to a lot of dudes. And frankly, when you're busy thinking about your kids, they can actually just get right up on you like that. So if you're hearing this and somebody's got a restraining order on you and you're going through the next steps, like listen up, because if your story starts to sound like mine, hey heed, like, um, so they've got me cuffed, and then from around like a bush, like sorry, a hedge, not a bush, they were crouched, comes four guys, SWAT gear in stack formation, like walking with hands on each other's shoulders, stacking their way into my house. And the detectives are asking me if I've got surveillance equipment set up in my house. Um, yeah. So then the detectives, that's the last I saw of my house. They walked me away and put me in the back of a unmarked police car, which is fucking cuffs on, and my stove on, and my socks in front of. And I lived in a condominium complex, so like all the neighbors are like seeing this shit. Um, and then these pair of assholes, defectives. Sorry, man. Okay, sorry. Okay. Um, these two public servants, savants, proceed to drive me down to the police station, and I still don't know why I'm in cuffs. I have no idea what's going on. Like, made no sense to me. And a funny note is as we're driving there, in the dim distance, I can hear Leonard Skinner's Freebird playing, and I was sure I was hallucinating it. And finally, I asked the guy up front, I'm like, "Do you hear Freebird?" And he's like, "No." And I'm like, is your radio on?" And he turns the volume knob up on the radio, and Freebird was totally on. So like, that's funny, and it sticks with me to this day. Um, it feels like a cosmic omen to like just let me know, yes, you're not the crazy one here, dude. So they interrogated me without reading me my rights or letting me know I needed a lawyer or that I was even being interrogated. Uh, and then after some hours of interrogating me and leaving me alone in the interrogation room, um, they took me to the local jail and put me in a holding cell with whatever other wackos they'd picked up that day. And one dude in there was a wacko. Wacko, wacko. I'm talking like saved his spork and was like sharpening it on the concrete and putting it in his like waistband wacko. And this is just in the holding cell. Like they're not even like so-called housed or in jail. Like yo, dude. Anyway, and he decided he wanted to chat me up a lot. Like so he'd get up next to me and talk to me, and I'm like doing my best to like. Anyway, so I'm in there till midnight. Um, and I was an elder caregiver at the time, and my boss posted the bail for me um, to get out, but he couldn't come get me. So I just got, for the first time, unceremoniously kicked out the front door of the jail at midnight um, with no cash in my pockets, but like a check for the cash that they had taken. So I didn't even have bus fare. uh, um, so I had to walk home. And when I got home, it looked like the place had been burgled. I lived with two other housemates. One was the primary leaseholder, and me and another guy. They broke his bedroom door and closet down. He had a locked closet. They broke that down. He had guns that I was not aware of. They broke his door down and confiscated his guns, um, responding to, like, as they're swatting me. Um, I'm a grown ass man. I had sex toys left from my previous relationship that I hadn't gotten rid of yet. They had just been in a box in my closet. I mean, I was still settling. Like I had a whole bunch of stuff that I got rid of, um, but I had to move in a hurry. They completely tossed my room, but took the time to leave that stuff arranged across my bed for me to come home to, which was like, what kind of move is that? Like, I don't understand. Maybe they thought I'd been using them on myself or something, but even then, it's a free country. And no, I haven't, dude. It's not my speed. It was for the old lady. So like, my ex. Um, and stupid me, I didn't even know that that relationship was done. Like, so if you're listening to this and shit's gotten this far in your relationship, seriously get into therapy because it's done. The likelihood of coming back from that is like seriously. So anyway, and then they left all their little cop gloves, like used condoms, all over the house. They just peel them and drop them wherever they leave them. My housemate was freaked out and furious about his missing guns and the shape of the house, and whether the landlord was going to kick us out for the damage to his home. The police wouldn't communicate. with me or us about the taken property. And the other thing that they did, and mind the timing now, I had been in hearing and had been granted unsupervised visits, and there would be more hearings to come. There was an evidentiary hearing coming up where I was supposed to explain myself and give evidence to support myself. When the SWAT team came and took everything, they took all the computers in the house, they took all the electronic storage items in the house that they could find. They took all the documents, photographs that were in my room and my spaces. They cleaned all that out. Like, and I was a computer technician for a local school system um, uh, previously, and still I had a lot of hardware. I had so much hardware they were complaining about how when I got to court, sorry, in family court they were complaining. Sorry. So like they they took all this stuff. I get home from jail. All they left was a mess. So now I've got two things going on. I've got family court going on, and now I've got this criminal stuff going on. I still did not know what I had been charged with. I didn't understand my charges until I'd been put in jail, but and people in jail explained it to me because they didn't believe me when I said I didn't know why I was there. But that's a jump. So, I'm home, my house is tossed, I've been in jail all day. My housing is now seriously destabilized. And I'm supposed to appear in family court and don't. All I have is what I had already gotten up into Google Drive. And thank goodness that I had so much in Google Drive that I was able to make a pretty good appearing in family court. And got granted here's where I'm getting all messed up. And as you guys, as you all get to know me, pardon my use of guys if it's a mixed thing. It's my lane. As you all get to know me, you'll probably form a better picture of what I've been through than I have, because frankly, it's left me shattered and I have a hard time putting things in chronological order. And then some things I can dimly remember them until I try to think of them, and then they just my brain, it's been explained to me that my brain protectively disassociates me away from that. And I'm grateful because for like the first while, I had, let's just say I had some strong feelings. So any Hoosers, I got, so 6 months later, been arrested, come home, house is trashed. And then 3 months after that, I'm in criminal hearing and got convicted of one of 3 charges. And they convicted me of misuse of a computer. The 3 charges they pulled me up on were stalking, misuse of a computer, and electronic fraud. None of it made any sense because it had nothing to do with the original. Oh, and then I hired this lawyer for my defense, and that lawyer got a police report because I had not seen the police report. So asked me to look at my police report. It's freaking interesting because in January it lists me as a victim of felony threat with intent to terrorize, and the perp as the guy that's the perp. And then 6 months later, they change it to me being charged with stalking, misuse of a computer, and electronic fraud, and it made no freaking sense. I'll clue you in. What it was they were punishing me for recording my assailant and giving it to him, which was illegal for them to do because California has a law that says you can do exactly that. You can Google it. It's 633.5. My son pointed it out to me like after I had already been in jail because he saw it on Archer. Like, so cops, lawyers, everybody, all these professionals that I had been through that are legally charged with my safety all broke the obvious law and processed me like a criminal and put me through what they did. From a legal perspective, it's called the fruit of the poisonous tree. From an evidential perspective, and otherwise, it's just straight up corruption, disenfranchisement of my civil rights, and um, violations of my human rights. Because I got prodded in the ass when I was in jail by guards repeatedly on my bare asshole. Like, bend over, grab your ankles. Like, I was only in there for a month for misuse of a computer. It's like, um, okay, sorry, I jumped. So, like, came home, crashed. That's 6 month mark. 9 month mark, I had the hearing where they convicted me and put me on 3 years probation. It was either probation or something worse, which would have separated me from my daughter, and I was trying to maintain supervised visitation. So I chose the lesser of all the evils when my lawyer should have done a better job. And the judge, so anyway, you heard all that shit. I never should have been there in the first place. They should have arrested my ex and whoever she hired to do this to me. But when I saw the police report at 6 months, I freaked out because the address listed for the perp was my ex and her daughter's address. This a-hole was living in her basement. And I found that out 6 months later. And it frickin' threw me. And that's when I tried to get help from the local women's shelters. Family services shelters, but they call them women's shelters. And they wouldn't help me because they said, why the frick? They wouldn't help me because they said they were already helping my ex. And then when I asked about group services and that sort of any support, they said, well, we don't really have that. And that got later thrown in my face in court. My ex tried to claim that I was stalking her at women's shelters, but luckily my attorney at that time said no. I told him to go do that, so I didn't get screwed for that. So now I'm on probation, and we'll fast forward to about like 12 to the 15-month mark. It's now spring of the next year. I've been through all that crap, been to jail and holding, been put on probation, and now I'm trying to manage. I had been granted unprofessional supervised visits. That means that a friend of mine could host me and my daughter at his house, and the court would be okay with that. For like 4-hour visits twice a week. So on one of those visits, my ex must have called probation, and she had been trying to call probation and get me in trouble because when you're on probation, you don't have the same civil rights. You can just be thrown in jail for whatever, for halitosis. And I was just freaking scared and doing whatever I had to do to keep showing up. I was an elder caregiver for a guy that was like 92 years old, maintaining supervised visits. And I think I'd been kicked out of the condo and was now living in an apartment with a girlfriend. And my son, I think, was also staying with us. It was tight, but it was nice to have my people. And when she claimed I made a threatening gesture, I got hauled into court. So I had to appear in court for a criminal hearing. And once again, 9 in the morning, I was expecting to see my daughter that day at like 10:30. And I hadn't done anything and really didn't understand why I was there. And here goes my ex. She gets up on the stand, says I'd made a threatening gesture at her. The judge didn't listen to me. I didn't even remember. I barely remembered the day she was talking about, but I knew I had never done that. She did a motion of dragging her thumb across her throat like some cartoon movement. But me, I'm a construction worker and a climber, and what we do is more of a flat palm, lay your palms kind of perpendicular to your arm and kind of swing it side to side in an exaggerated motion to tell somebody to turn off machinery or stop or something. Like I have a completely different movement for that. Like, yeah, so I knew for sure I'd never done anything like that. Like, yeah, not even to cut it out. Like, but what the judge believed her, she presented no evidence, just her word. The judge believed her and said, I'm going to protect this woman. It was a guy named Salazar, John Salazar. He says, I'm going to protect this woman. And this is all public record. I can say this. And he remanded me. And I didn't know what being remanded was. What it was it means that they take you right out of the courtroom and put you in jail. So I gave my son my wallet and what I carried into court with me that day, and was taken out the back of the courtroom and down some stairs and into this cavernous concrete room up under the courthouse that they call the Tombs. And from there, I was taken to the local jail and processed, put back in that holding thing again. And I thought that they were going to, like, do that whole thing and let me go again. But they kept me for almost a month. And like I said, I didn't know why I was in jail. Um, would it be okay if we split this in two and take this up again?
Sure,
I
it's no problem.
I I just so disassociation is this protective function, and I'm watching my words get further apart, and I'm not going to push myself into a panic attack, but I'm glad to share this stuff. It's important.
Yeah, it's okay.
I learned a lot in jail. I learned a lot about my predicament from meeting other men in jail that the same thing had happened to. And it was in jail that I met my first men's rights group. It was a group called Papas, and it was a passive aggressive sort of move by the administration's part. So they let this guy come in and host a group for dads that were in jail. His mission was to take guys like deadbeat dads and get them back involved with their kids. And it was a group for increased fatherhood involvement. But the truth of it is a lot of these guys had been forcibly separated from their families. They really wanted to be with their kids. And they had been separated from their families and then painted to be deadbeats. So when we got together and had that in common, as intimate as guys don't get with each other, man, you get a guy talking about his kids, his motorcycle, his car, his boat, his wife, if maybe the good part. Like, you get him talking about something he loves, and the toughest guy will soften up and get intimate with you. We don't call it intimate. We call it, like, broing out, but that's really what it is. And because we were all vulnerable, that shared trauma bonded us. And I met with a lot of those same guys outside of jail too. And I happened to notice, we'll do the second part of the jail thing, but this is the good thing that I got out of jail. After jail, I had other men, and I do want to tell you more about what happened in jail. There's a lot, but it'll fuck me up still. But after jail, I had a group of guys to meet with where we did the uncharacteristic thing of sharing this stuff that was humiliating, sharing our humiliating losses and finding out that it was systemic. There was a pattern to it, like a speed trap set for making money, not for public safety. And we started emotionally, logistically, and formed legal study groups to support each other and understand the laws so that when we went into court, we wouldn't look so stupid. We would accompany each other to court. And so we didn't feel so vulnerable. And also so that we would feel more accountable for not losing our cool. And we started getting really good results. And people at probation and the courts and the places we were showing up, and we weren't showing up militant, we were showing up quiet because we were scared. We were scared that we would lose time with our kids. So, like, we would just show up and quietly support each other. But the part where we were unflappable, the people that had been bullying us, cops, courts, probation, visitation supervisors, they didn't like that they couldn't get the same result out of us. They didn't like that we could, like, keep it together and slow and steady make progress. And that's where the talk about last week and the whole infiltration and bust up came in. But that's how I got there, was I went to this sham of an organization and started introducing things that I had learned from the women's movement and from Alcoholics Anonymous groups. Yeah, because in AA, they share all sorts of embarrassing things too. So I was already kind of groomed and primed, I guess, for advocacy and resistance work. I just didn't know it. And frankly, I'm a really chill guy. I'm confrontational avoidant. But I'm good at it and can be frighteningly articulate. And my son has too. I can't wait till you get to hear him talk, because they got him up on the stand and were saying things like, you want to be just like your dad, don't you? And he accurately replied with, like, not just the good parts, not anything that I shouldn't be. They were really doing the whole pick a side kind of thing. They tried to divide and conquer and failed. And I watched him. I watched him rhetorically handle himself very well against multiple judges, and he smoked the daylights out of my ex's lawyer. And she's a mean, sharp person that doesn't follow the law. I would say she cheats at it, and I think she should know better because she's licensed. And I know that factually because I studied the laws against me and found out that they were wrongfully applied. And any attorney is a servant of the court. And just like a restaurant worker, if they find something dirty or wrong, they're supposed to fix it, not just try to pick the patty up off the floor and sell it. So, yeah, everybody broke the law. They committed torts against me. And while I can't do anything about it, I can document it and say it. And in the chat, I added, for those of you that are interested, I added a list of the evidence to DM me for. And of note are the original threatening recording. The police report is a laugh riot. I think that should just be turned into, like, a small community theater play. after I got out of jail, because of the friends I made in jail, some thugs, I got the phone number and email address of this guy that threatened me, and I managed to call him and get his permission to record him admitting everything that he had done to me, as well as having lied to the police. And then I got him to sign an affidavit, which is an admission, like legally um, binding. He declared under penalty of perjury of all the things he had done. So I've got it. I've got us having the conversation about it. I've got him backing that up with an affidavit that outlines the conversation. And then I took all that and I sent that to the police, the district attorney, the jail staff, the judges, everybody all the civil servants that had handled me, because it benchmarked the tort that they had committed against me, not let alone any potential crimes. I mean, they could claim incompetence instead of corruption, but that's a hell of a pattern. And we can talk more about that later. But yeah, the notes are the notes are in the summary. And if I'm going to shut up, and if you guys have any questions, lay it on me, or look me up and DM me, and I'll share it.
Sure.
And if you run into other dads, sorry to interrupt, that sound all scrambled like that, you might send them my way, because it's major gaslighting, and it makes a person very psychologically vulnerable to be in that place, and they may not realize how much danger they're in. So yeah, thank you. Sorry about that.
No worries. Sure, we'll send the dads to you if we find any like that. Well, we've had a few on here, but yeah. Did you ever try to sue them?
No, what I did do was, once I got the affidavit, my son tried to get a restraining order against the guy that called. His name was, it's public knowledge, I can name him. His name was Dan Benson. And it's all in the reports. You can go read it yourself. And on that day, there were plenty of witnesses present. I don't know what documentation or recording exists, but my son was the topic. He was the one appearing, trying to ask for a restraining order. But I was present, and his mom was accompanying him to the bench instead of me. I was just sitting in the gallery there with other people. And on that day, the judge showed up with the wrong case file. Showed up with a case file from me and showed up with a case file from my ex and her previous husband. And it was the third binder, and I recognized it because I had been at the courthouse doing legal research. But he showed up with that file and was yelling at my son, "Show me evidence of this woman threatening anybody." And it just so happened that she had tried to get me to harm her husband. I had recorded it, given it to her husband, and said, "Watch your back." And he had gone to court looking for protection. So in the back of that binder was a compact disc of her asking me to kill her husband, as hilarious as that was. And the judge was yelling and saying, point out where the evidence is. And I noticed which binder it was. Oh, and he dramatically had the bailiff. He gave the binder to the bailiff and had the bailiff march it over to my scared frickin', I think my son was like 16, and his mom. And they're looking at it, and I'm like, in the back. And in the back was that disc. So now the judge is like, oh my God. So now the person that we're asking for the restraining order for threats against me, now here pops up this evidence of her making threats against her ex-husband. So at that point, the judge demanded that my son and myself, and mind you, I wasn't there for any, I was just there as a citizen watching things, not even a witness. Was I a witness? I don't remember. My son had presented the audio recording of this guy admitting everything, had him dead to rights. What they needed to do was put out the order and extradite him. But this judge hauls me and my son alone into a back room, no supervision, and proceeds to verbally assault us. Like, assaulted us to the point where both me and my son, my son's skilled in fighting, and I'm just fucking crazy because I grew up in Nutville. So, like, I'm grabbed the nearest heavy object, and he's a bit more skilled. But we're both protective of each other. So this judge almost got taken apart like that. So we're looking at each other like, you keep it together. While this judge is saying that he refused to do anything against that woman and her son that were sitting in his courtroom, even though we had just proved that they were conspiring with the guy that threatened me. So yeah, we tried to get protection, but the result we got from trying to get protection and the result I got from when I presented everything to the district attorney, like when they make a mistake like that, I don't have to sue them. They need to break their neck fixing it. The fact that they were notified of their mistake and didn't do anything, when we, because I'm a poster child for this movement now, when we get this in front of Congress, like the way Terry Crews got to speak about getting groped at that party, when he could have demolished that guy that did it. But instead, he was civil. He managed to get up in front of Congress and say, look, sexual assault against men isn't right. And I say the same. Assault against men isn't right. So, yeah, I got a case for it. I never did anything wrong. All I did was report stuff against myself, and look where it got me and my young son. Like, and the way that they clearly stated, I'm going to protect this woman. I will not take legal action against this woman. Like, they made it really clear what, and when I got, when we talk about supervised visitation, I got more bias confirmation, and it frightens me. The DA lifted up his jacket and showed me his gun when I presented him with my evidence. He didn't say, I'm going to shoot you. He just made it clear he's got a gun. And he said he wouldn't let me have any, like, I don't get to talk to the DA at all. This was just the assistant. So, like, no, they've intimidated me so much that I'm scared of getting sent to jail again for nothing, or just straight up killed, or that they might harm my son. Or like, what if my ex, what if I actually make any headway? What if I make a little headway, but not enough, and my ex just decides to do something to, like, I don't know what she would do. She's been crazy so far. So, and I lived with her, and I saved her youngest child, her son. She's got 2 sons. I saved the younger one from death twice. No, 3 times. He almost choked twice and almost went down the stairs once. Like, yeah, we're different. We're different kinds of people. So yeah, I would like, I would like my rights back, and I wish I knew how to sue, but it's the kind of thing where if I don't get it right the first time, it's like risking my life. I almost got killed 3 times in jail. Like, jail is rough. Like, I hear prison's easier than jail, which sounds crazy, but that's what I've heard. So that's where I'm at. And frankly, I'm still terrified every day. Nobody's ever done anything about her or this guy. And the cops and everybody made it pretty clear whose side they're on. So for me, what would really help is I could really use, this is helpful. I could use help getting my story into narrative form. And then for those that are interested, which is interesting, to do legal analysis, just read the law and see like where things went wrong so that I can have a decent packet to send to lawyers and hopefully get some pro bono help, or start sending it to senators and asking for attention, senators and the media. Because a lot of the guys that I help have done things that they shouldn't have done and don't have clean hands, but my hands are clean. My hands are clean, and I'm just scared for my little girl. And the fucked up thing on top of it was I was a victim of kidnap as a child too. And the state didn't do anything to help me then. And when my mom kidnapped me back, she did it illegally with the help of a state employee. So that's how it really works. And I don't like that that's how it really works. I want it to at least work the way that it says that it works, so that if there's something wrong with the system, it can be changed, instead of having back channeling and shortcutting and then doing victory laps like they did the job that they were supposed to do. If the job had been done right, I wouldn't be in the position that I'm in. And neither would my daughter or my son. And we wouldn't be here doing this. I would be doing something else. But I'm glad that I'm here with y'all. And when I run into somebody who's been through this, and I can see it, and I can help them, and I can tell them the truth. Like that Canadian guy, he's still hopeful that he's got a chance. And I'm like, look, man, gird yourself. You are walking into hell and you need friends. If you can navigate hell with super style, you can probably get through this. But it's an impossible level of style. But I've gotten dudes through it. Like, just because I had information and could tell them what I had been through so that they had proper perspective and weren't making arguments based on justice. You have to be really pragmatic and also killing them with kindness the whole freaking time. Like when I was in jail, I introduced the jail guys to Epictetus and The Prophet by Khalil Gibran. I had a friend send me those two books in. And I spiritually made my way through jail. And the people that fucked with me were psycho fuckers. And I ran into some issues around racial division. I wasn't used to such strong racism. Blacks and whites, Latinos, and others are the four categories that are in there. And I was raised black, so I was hanging out with the black folks, which pissed off the white folks. So I ran into a violent situation and had to be put into solitary. Oh, and they destroy the records of everything that happens in there. So all the requests that I sent, the written requests and stuff that I sent to jail guards while I was in there, they don't keep any of that, which they totally should. They destroy all that when you leave. So it's destroying evidence. But I wrote a jail diary, which I'll add to the summary. So long and short, no, I was not able to sue, but I think that there's still room for it on my behalf as well as on my son's behalf, and most definitely on my daughter's behalf. It's an absolute circus of torts. Holler if you don't know what torts are. Torts are personal crimes and breaches of contract that cause harm. That have been, there can be personal tort, there can be civil torts as well as forget the other ones. But everybody who is contracted to uphold the law that failed committed crimes against me, sometimes felonies. And I think there's room for that to be addressed. And if we can't address it in my case, a fresher case like this Canadian fellow, I would wager that they're probably breaking laws as we speak. So, yeah, let's get cracking. That's why I do this. So I'm gonna go back to shutting up.
All right, thank you, Hugh. I think it's time that we take us out, Painter, if you could, and we'll pick this back up next week if Hugh's up for it.
Thank you so much for having me on. It was great to talk to you, and sure, if it's helpful, yes.
It would be, honestly, because we do have dads here a lot of the time, and they tell us some of this stuff. But to have somebody who's become an expert in the system and its corruption, that's something we don't see every day. So thank you, Painter. If you could take us out, please.
Well, thank you everyone for joining us, and for everyone listening on the YouTube channel. We do this every Saturday at the same time, 7:30 UK. If you look on the Discord, you will find your local times. Again, thank you everybody for joining us.